In 1987, on a quiet stretch of asphalt, a black coupe lined up against a brand new V8 muscle car, the kind everyone trusted, the kind everyone expected to win. The light turned green, and within seconds, the V8 was gone. Not just beaten, disappeared. The car that did it? A Buick. Yeah, that Buick. But what almost nobody knows is that this wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't part of the plan. In fact, what you're about to hear is the story of an engine so good, so dangerous to GM's own lineup, that they had no choice but to kill it. And when they did, they may have destroyed the future of American performance. You think you know the Grand National story? Not like this. It starts in the early 1980s. And honestly, things weren't looking good. The muscle car era was dead. Choked out by emissions laws, rising fuel costs, and insurance companies that treated horsepower like a crime. By 1980, most V8s were shadows of their former selves. Big displacement, tiny power. A 5.7-liter V8 might barely make 180 horsepower. That's how bad it got. Corvettes were slow. Camaros felt neutered. Even the legendary big blocks were gone, replaced by smog-choked engines that wheezed their way to 60 miles per hour. The oil crisis had crushed the spirit of American performance. Gas lines stretched for blocks. People waited hours just to fill their tanks. And suddenly, that 454 cubic inch monster didn't seem so practical anymore. Detroit was in crisis mode. General Motors was desperate. They needed performance. But they couldn't do it the old way anymore. High compression, not possible. Big cams, emissions nightmare, huge carburetors, forget it. The EPA was tightening the noose every single year. Catalytic converters were mandatory, lead was being phased out of fuel, and the corporate average fuel economy standards meant every manufacturer had to play a delicate balancing act between performance and efficiency. Most companies just gave up on performance entirely, but not everyone. So they tried something different, something smaller, something boosted. Deep inside Buick, a small team of engineers started experimenting with a 3.8-liter V6. That's 231 cubic inches. Not exactly inspiring. In fact, most enthusiasts laughed at the idea. A V6 for performance? That was sacrilege. But they had an idea: turbocharge it. At first, it didn't go well. Early versions in the late 70s used draw-through carburetors, fuel and air mixed before the turbo. It was crude, laggy, unpredictable, engines knocked, pistons failed, reliability was questionable. Drivers complained about massive turbo lag. You'd press the throttle and nothing. Then suddenly a surge of power would hit like a freight train. It was almost undrivable in traffic. Fuel economy wasn't great either, because drivers had to keep their foot in it just to get the turbo to wake up. The early turbocharged Regals weren't exactly setting the world on fire. Magazine reviews were lukewarm at best. Sales were modest. Inside GM, many executives saw it as a failed experiment, but they kept pushing because they knew something everyone else was ignoring. Turbocharging didn't just add power, it let you cheat the system. Lower compression ratios meant cleaner emissions. Smaller engines meant better fuel economy on paper. But with Boost, you could still make serious horsepower when you needed it. It was the perfect loophole. And a few dedicated engineers at Buick refused to let it die. By 1984, things got serious. Buick introduced the Grand National with a turbocharged and intercooled 3.8-liter V6. This wasn't just a gimmick anymore, it was a weapon. The engine featured a bore of 3.80 inches and a stroke of 3.40 inches. Compression ratio sat around 8.0.1, low enough to handle boost safely without detonation. And that turbo? It was pushing around 10 to 12 psi in stock form. The intercooler was key. By cooling the compressed air before it entered the engine, they could pack more oxygen into each cylinder. Denser air meant more fuel. More fuel meant more power. Simple physics. Brilliant execution. Output 200 horsepower at first. Doesn't sound impressive, not yet. But torque, 300 lb-ft, and it came in early, hard, violent. The power delivery was completely different from any V8. It wasn't smooth or linear. It built gradually, then exploded. Drivers had to learn a new technique. Anticipate the boost, time the power. It rewarded skill, punished mistakes. But there was a problem. GM itself didn't take it seriously. Inside the company, this engine was seen as a side project, a curiosity. The real performance cars still wore V8 badges. Corvette, Camaro, Monte Carlo SS, Pontiac Firebird. Those were the stars. The Buick, it was the underdog. The weird experiment happening in the corner while the big boys got all the attention and marketing budget. Buick wasn't supposed to be about performance. It was the brand for your dad, for dentists and accountants. Comfortable, quiet, respectable, not fast. And then came 1986. This is where everything changed. Buick engineers refined the setup. They added sequential fuel injection, replacing the outdated carburetor system. Computer control meant precise fuel delivery. Every cylinder got exactly what it needed, exactly when it needed it. They improved the intercooler, making it larger and more efficient. Heat was the enemy of power, and they were winning that battle. Tuned the turbo system for faster spool, more consistent boost, better throttle response. The transmission was upgraded to handle the increased torque. The rear end got stronger gears. Even the chassis received subtle improvements to handle the power. Now the engine was officially rated at 235 horsepower and 330 lb-ft of torque. But here's the truth. Those numbers were a lie, a safe lie. Underrated on purpose, because in real-world testing, these cars were putting down closer to 260 horsepower at the crank. Some dyno tests showed even higher, and the torque, massive, instant, relentless. Why underrate it? Corporate politics, insurance considerations, and not wanting to embarrass the Corvette, not yet anyway. 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, quarter mile in the mid-13s. That made it faster than a Ferrari 308, faster than a Lamborghini Countach, to 60, faster than Porsche 911s that cost 3 times as much. From a Buick, a family sedan platform wearing a tuxedo and hiding a sledgehammer under the hood. You can probably guess what happened next. People started noticing, and not just enthusiasts, competitors, magazines, even GM executives. Car and Driver ran comparison tests. Motor Trend featured it. Street racers started buying them. Because while the Corvette guys were showing off at car shows, the Grand National guys were taking home trophies at the drag strip. Every weekend, another story. Another Mustang left behind. Another Camaro wondering what just happened. The black Buick became a legend on the street. No flashy colors, no stripes, just menacing, murdered-out black paint, blacked-out trim, blacked-out wheels. It looked fast sitting still, and when it moved, it was devastating. But then, something even more insane happened. A small company called ASC McLaren got involved, and this is where the GNX was born. Final year of the Grand National, 1987. Buick decides to go all out, but not officially. Instead, they send 547 cars to ASC McLaren for modification. This was strategic. By outsourcing the project, GM could claim it wasn't really a factory car. It gave them plausible deniability. If it embarrassed the Corvette too badly, they could just say it was a limited edition specialty vehicle, corporate games. What came back was something else entirely, the GNX. Under the hood, the same 3.8-liter V6, but now heavily reworked. The turbocharger was upgraded to a Garrett T3 unit with a ceramic impeller, faster spool, higher boost capability, around 15 psi now, with the ability to spike even higher under hard acceleration. They added a larger intercooler, a more aggressive engine tune that pushed every limit, improved exhaust flow with less restrictive piping. The fuel system was upgraded to deliver more volume at higher pressures. Every component was optimized, every restriction eliminated. Official rating, 276 horsepower, 360 lb-ft of torque. Again, not true. Real numbers were closer to 300 horsepower, maybe more. Some independent tests suggested 310, even 320 at the crank, and the torque, over 400 lb-ft in short bursts when boost spiked. In a car that weighed around 3,500 pounds. That's a power-to-weight ratio that could challenge supercars. That's serious. But power wasn't the only change. They reinforced the rear suspension with a torque arm setup to handle the brutal acceleration. The stock setup would have twisted itself into a pretzel under full throttle launches, added wider wheels, sticky tires that could actually put the power down, functional fender vents that weren't just for show. The interior got special treatment too, numbered plaques, unique stitching. Every GNX owner knew exactly which number they had out of 547. This wasn't just a Grand National anymore. This was something darker, more focused, more dangerous. A purpose-built performance machine disguised as a luxury coupe. And then came the numbers: 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, quarter mile in 12.7 seconds at over 110 mph. Some magazines got even better times. Car and Driver hit 4.6 seconds to 60. Motor Trend ran a 12.6 at 113 mph. Let that sink in. In 1987, this was the fastest production car in America. Faster than the Corvette. Faster than anything GM had. Faster than Ford's Best. Faster than most European exotics that cost a fortune. And that's where the problem began. Because inside GM, there were rules. Unwritten, but very real. The Corvette had to be the fastest. Always. No exceptions. It was GM's halo car. The flagship. The American icon. The car that took on Ferrari and Porsche and represented American engineering prowess. But here was this black Buick with a V6 embarrassing everything, including GM's halo car. The Corvette guys were furious. Engineers who'd spent years developing the C4 Corvette watched a Buick blow past them in every performance metric that mattered. And the worst part? It cost less, a lot less. A GNX sold for around $29,000. The Corvette, over $35,000 for a well-equipped model. So not only was the Buick faster, it was cheaper. That was unacceptable. And it wasn't just straight-line speed. The way it made power was different. V8s built power linearly, predictably. You could feel exactly what was happening at every RPM. The Turbo V6, it hit like a hammer. Below 2,500 RPM, it was calm, almost quiet, docile even. You could cruise through town, get decent fuel economy, and nobody would know what you were driving. Then boost built, and suddenly, everything changed. The engine pulled hard through the mid-range. Torque slammed into the drivetrain. Rear tires fought for grip, sometimes losing. The back end would step out if you weren't careful. If you were on anything less than perfect pavement, you were going sideways. Drivers described it like being kicked in the back, like someone flipped a switch and suddenly you were in a different car. But there was a downside: turbo lag. At low RPM, response wasn't instant. You had to wait. Just a moment. Learn to anticipate. Plan your passes. Time your acceleration. And then, boom. For some, it was thrilling. For others, unpredictable. Dangerous even. But Buick engineers didn't stop there. They improved oiling systems to handle higher temperatures generated by the turbo, reinforced internals to survive increased cylinder pressure, fine-tuned fuel delivery to prevent detonation under boost, because that was the real enemy. Knock, detonation. At 15 psi with an 8.0.1 compression ratio, cylinder pressures skyrocketed. One bad tank of fuel, one lean condition, and the engine could destroy itself in seconds. Pistons would melt, literally melt, with aluminum smearing across cylinder walls. Head gaskets would fail, mixing coolant and oil. Connecting rods could bend or break, punching holes through the block. But when everything worked, when the fuel was good, the tune was right, and the engine was healthy, it was magic. Pure, addictive, intoxicating magic. And racers figured it out fast. Modified GNXs and Grand Nationals started pushing 400, 500, even 600 horsepower. Same basic block, same architecture, just more boost, more fuel, better intercooling, more risk. Quarter-mile times dropped into the 11s, then the 10s, some even hit 9 seconds. From a V6 that GM almost ignored, that executives dismissed as a curiosity, that was never supposed to be a performance engine. The aftermarket exploded. Companies started making upgraded turbos, bigger intercoolers, performance fuel injectors, stronger transmissions. An entire industry built around making these cars even faster. So why kill it? Why end something this good? Something that was selling, that was winning, that was building a legacy, because it broke the hierarchy. It didn't fit the image. Buick wasn't supposed to be the performance brand. Buick sold to retirees, to families, to people who valued comfort over speed. Corvette was the performance car. Pontiac had the Firebird. Chevrolet had the Camaro. Everyone had their lane. And worse, the GNX proved something dangerous. You didn't need big V8s anymore. A smaller engine, with boost, could outperform them. Use less fuel doing it. Produce cleaner emissions. Cost less to build. That idea, it threatened everything GM had built. Decades of V8 dominance. Brand identities built around engine configurations. Marketing strategies that put displacement above all else. If a turbocharged V6 was the answer, what did that mean for the Corvette's V8? For the entire GM performance strategy? And then, the hammer dropped. 1987 was the end. Production stopped. The Grand National was gone. The GNX? Just 547 units. Ever gone. Just like that. No successor, no evolution, no second generation, no turbocharged V6 Buick performance car for the 90s. Nothing. It wasn't because it failed. It wasn't because customers didn't want it. It wasn't because it couldn't meet emissions or safety standards. It was because it succeeded too well. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Because just a few years later, the world changed. Turbocharging became the future. Look at modern performance cars today. Twin-turbo V6 making 500 horsepower. Inline 4s making 300 horsepower. Downsized engines with massive boost levels. Even supercars abandoned big, naturally aspirated engines for smaller turbocharged units. Exactly what Buick was doing in the 80s, but they were too early, too good, and too threatening. By the 1990s, emissions tightened even more. The Clean Air Act forced manufacturers to rethink everything. Insurance rates stabilized, technology improved, electronic engine management became sophisticated enough to make turbocharged engines reliable and efficient. GM could have led that revolution. They had the blueprint sitting right there, proven, tested, winning races. They had the engine, they had the knowledge, they had the head start, but they let it die. And today, the GNX is a legend. Collectors pay over $200,000 for a clean example. Some go even higher. Particularly low-mileage examples or cars with documented history, because people know what it represents. Not just speed, but a missed opportunity, a moment when everything could have changed, and didn't. So what made the Buick GNX so special? It wasn't just the numbers, it wasn't just the speed, it wasn't even the fact that it beat supercars and muscle cars and everything GM had. It was the idea that a small turbocharged V6 could take on and beat the biggest, baddest V8s in the world, and do it quietly, in black, without warning, without apology. That engine didn't just win races, it rewrote the rules. It proved that the future of performance wasn't about how many cylinders you had, it was about how efficiently you could make power, how intelligently you could engineer a solution. And GM may have spent decades trying to catch up to something they already had, trying to rediscover what they'd thrown away. If you enjoyed this story, let me know what you want to see next. Another forgotten engine, another rivalry, or another piece of automotive history that changed everything. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might be even crazier.